on the horses, and I read the back pages. He says, and this morning I came into school, he says, and I was amazed at reading a story in the Irish News of how one of my pupils had the distinction of going to Dublin and winning an Irish national title. And up until he had said going to Dublin, I was pretty calm, but when he mentioned Dublin, my face just went bang, red.
Beetroot red.
And Mr. Larmour come out that class, and people are all looking around because I was very small at school, insignificant,
Quiet.
you know.
Yeah.
And the next thing was, when did you start boxing? How many fights have you had? Firing questions away at me, and the next thing the class started firing questions, and I was cute enough to realise the more questions that were asked, the less schoolwork was being done.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and that's
Good
why
thinking.
people were asking questions.
Right.
You know, but that was my first recognition of being a boxer. Really, you know.
Many brothers and sisters you have?
I had 3 brothers. And
Three
there was
brothers.
quite a bit of fighting done in
Right.
our
And the usual, life wouldn't have been easy growing up in the Shankill. 2 up, 2 down, outdoor toilet.
Yeah.
No central heating in them days.
No central heating. It was a rolled up piece of Ireland Saturday Night or the Telegraph to go to the toilet. But
and your brothers, your 3 brothers, where are you in between? Are you the oldest?
I'm the eldest.
Right.
I have 3 younger brothers.
Right.
John, he was the only one participated in boxing. Jim did a little bit in the army, but William, he never bothered boxing, you know.
Wow.
But
Your big breakthrough came then when you were picked to go to the Commonwealth Games in Edinburgh, Scotland.
well, I was runner-up in the Ulster Championships, 70, 71, 72. But as you say, the 70 Commonwealth Games, I was picked as the flyweight representative for Northern Ireland because the flyweight representative at the time was a fantastic boxer, great guy. He now lives in New York, Mickey Tohill.
Right.
Mickey was from the Falls Road.
Right.
And Mickey had beat me actually twice.
Right.
He was a southpaw. Southpaws should be drowned at birth, someone, you know. But Mickey was a great boxer, and
There wasn't as many of them.
the problem with
There
Mickey
loads of them
was he was a big guy, big, long, rangy guy, and he couldn't do the
a
weight.
bit awkward southpaw.
But
End of the bargain.
he couldn't do the weight.
Right.
And I'd boxed in a few internationals with Mickey against Wales, etc., and stuff like that. And I remember one night in Dublin, Mickey had a steak, and Jerry Story was the trainer. And Jerry cut the steak into little squares, and Mickey had to chew the square and suck the juice out of it, but spit it out. And Mickey, the reason I get picked for the flyweight berth in the Commonwealth Games at Edinburgh was because Mickey couldn't do the weight.
Right.
But Mickey went up to bantamweight. He was a bantamweight representative. I get beat in the quarter-final the semi-final by a guy called Leo Roboco.
Right. And the quarter final, you boxed the Canyon. You got cut.
Isaac Keena, I think it was his name. I got a cut in the
Quite a
right
bad
eye.
cut too. I've seen a photograph
Yep,
dripping blood.
yeah,
That would
quite
be
a-
stopped
well,
nowadays.
Oh, well, you got to. The thing is about boxing today, the headgear. If you get a hard punch, you're
I
stopped
know,
right away.
it's
They don't let you
ridiculous,
get
I
as
know.
much damage, which to me, I think it's spoiling the sport.
Yeah.
But,
Everyone wants to see a good tear up,
yeah,
a good fight.
that's
They won't
it.
let it. They won't allow it nowadays.
But I was beating the semi-finals
Semi-finals.
by Leo Roboco from Uganda, who had just won a bronze medal in the Olympics Games previous to it.
Right.
And he was beat in the final by a guy that beat me again, Dave Needham.
Right. Oh yes.
Needham,
yes.
he went
British
on to be
champion.
British champion, yeah. But you usually find through the years names crop up over and over again because you end up fighting all these guys
Yes.
and you know all these guys.
Yes.
But I was runner-up in the Ulster Championships, and
The nearly man they called you. The nearly man of Irish boxing.
in
71 and
71, 72, I was
Yeah.
always a finalist in the Irish Championships or the Ulster Championships.
But when you came back with the bronze, it was very low key. You
Low
didn't
key.
get very little recognition or acknowledgement.
Well, I
Having said that,
remember,
the clubs were really starting to kick
coming
in.
back to Leopold Street. I lived with my mother and father in 88 Leopold Street, and I came home. Taxi dropped me off at the door. I walked into the house, and that was it.
Right.
There was a guy further down the street had been a swimmer at the same Commonwealth Games.
Right.
I don't think he did very well, But there was no. It was back to the club the next night to train, you know. And as you say about the nearly man, and I think it was...
You were beating successive Ulster and Irish finals,
Yeah.
71, 72, wasn't it? Neil McLaughlin, the big one for the Munich Olympics.
Neil came from Derry, yeah. Neil, good friend of mine, Neil. But I'd fought Neil in my career and his career. I fought him 10 times. 9 as an amateur and one as a pro. He beat me 6 as an amateur.
Right.
Some of the decisions were a bit dubious, and I blame that possibly now at that time sectarian strife was going on in Northern Ireland. The Bloody Sunday in Derry had just taken place, you know. And there was people. There was no pressing of buttons. It was opinions were given who thought they won, and possibly that could have been reasons for me not getting decisions.
And very costly. He went to the Olympic Games.
Well, Neil went to the Olympic Games in Munich. And possibly
so you're always a bridesmaid, never a bride.
Well, possibly at the time I hadn't matured enough to. Neil was a very clever boxer and a very stand-up
Southpaw,
boxer.
wasn't he? Southpaw?
No. He was a very clever stand-up boxer, and even though it was only he was a jabber, he wasn't a really hard puncher. But when he hit you a jab, you felt it, you know. And he's a very clever boxer, but.
1973 was a big breakthrough when you got the international call-up. Tell us how that came about. That's very interesting.
Well, the international call-up came about. I was serving my time as an apprentice tailor, and I was working in the Michelin factory in Ballymena. It was only being built at the time. And the security guard came in, and I was working away on a big floor, myself and a couple of other guys. And the security guard asked, was there anyone there called Larmour? And they all pointed at me. So when I said, what's wrong? I thought I'd done something wrong. He says, no, there's a guy at the front gate wants to speak to you. I says, who is it? He says, a priest. I says, what priest want with me at the front gate? You know, I didn't know any priest in Ballymena. So I went down to the gate, and as I got to the gate, I seen Father Alec Dara, and who became a real good friend of mine, Father Dara, and I didn't know he was dead until a lot of years after he had died. But anyway, come on. And I says, what's wrong? They want you in Dublin. You're fighting in Dublin against Romania the night. So we got into his car and drove to Procale Hall, got a cup of tea, etc., and some sandwiches. Then he drove me to the train station in Ballymena, put me on a plane or on a train, took me to got off at York Street Station, and I ran from York Street Station to Leopold Street on the Crumlin Road, and I got my gear, and I had no money, and my mother gave me, I think it was £5 or something, and I went down onto the Woodvale Road, got the bus to the Great Northern Railway with the Europa City and I got on the train, and I got off at a Main Street station in Dublin, and got a taxi to the National Stadium, and I was entering the ring against a guy called Ural Mihai from Romania at light flyweight.
Right.
I suppose I could say I was the first one to fight light flyweight, but it wasn't recognised in the international because light flyweight wasn't a recognised weight at the time. But I got in, tried my best. The weight and the sweat that I had lost running to getting to Dublin just took toll. Was beating points, but I had an Irish face, and that was what I really wanted.
Right.
But it wasn't really the full international call-up, we call it.
Right, and you hadn't time to prepare fully for it, you know, you were working.
But when I came back to Belfast, the Ulsters came up. I won the Ulsters, I won the All-Irelands, and that was me on the international.
Really came to the fore.
On the international scene. Got my first international vest against Wales, against a fellow called Tony Davies from Wales, and I beat him.